Ahead on SportsDesk, a complete look at the demise of the Montreal Alouettes. Mullinix turns slugger to lead the Blue Jays. And Martina Navratilova, an easy winner at Wimbledon.
Bad news travels quickly. By now, most of this country is aware the Montreal Alouettes have folded. It is a jolt of reality into the unreal world of sports. For years, we've heard that the Alouettes were in trouble. And when a business loses money, there comes a time when the decision must be made whether to continue. The decision was made yesterday. The Alouettes franchise died. But as is the case often in a death, the survivors look for the bright side.
It's really a case of better now than later. CFL Commissioner Doug Mitchell admits the Alouettes could have survived for a few early games this year, but not much more. Despite having $2 million in the bank to start the season, they estimated a loss of between $3 and $5 million. So they decided to call it quits now.
But it was the feeling of the Board of Governors that it would be worse to start the season and not get through the season. If there was any doubt about it, let's fold the franchise and get on with the business of the operation of the league and not worry about whether or not a team may or may not make it through the course of the season.
And to compensate for the loss of Montreal, Winnipeg will join Toronto, Ottawa, and Hamilton in the CFL Eastern Division as the league goes to a couple of 4-team divisions. The top 3 teams in each division will then make the playoffs, with the first-place team getting a bye to the division final. Plans to save the Alouettes included financial support from the other 8 teams or possibly moving the club to another city, but neither idea got past the talking stage. As for the Montreal players, they will be paid for Thursday's scheduled game against Toronto. They will then be made available to other CFL teams in a dispersal draft on Friday afternoon. Mitchell doesn't see the Montreal situation leading to a domino effect on other struggling teams such as Ottawa and Saskatchewan.
I think that we've got 8 viable operations at this stage. I think all of the 8 clubs are committed to making it work and making it work even stronger. I think that what's happened in many respects is that the adjustment of the schedule has made it a better schedule for the 8 remaining teams. And we're committed to making the league operational, and I don't think it's going to have a domino effect at all.
And of course, the Alouettes folding immediately raises the question of a National Football League team moving into Montreal. Mitchell says he has talked with NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle.
He's very aware of the Montreal situation.
But he's not going to come in. Has he told you that, or is
Beyond that, I'm not going to make any comment.
My connections in the States say as long as there's a CFL team or a CFL league in Canada, we're not going to look north of us.
Are they going to get NFL football in Montreal?
I'd be very surprised. I don't know how anyone else in a similar sport would be attracted. There's no question the stadium is there, but people are looking for a support base.
So the CFL now goes to an 8-team league. The optimist says stronger than ever. The pessimist will wonder for how much longer.
And it's hard to imagine the NFL coming to a city that could only sell 4,000 season tickets. There will be few mourners in Montreal for the Alouettes. If there were many, then the league, or rather the team, would not be folding. The fact that only 4,000 or so seasons tickets were sold reflects the interest in the team, but in defense of the people of Montreal, the Alouettes have given them little reason to buy tickets with their play the past few years. And after years of losing, preseason promises of better things to come just don't cut it. Everybody loses in this: the city, team, the employees, and certainly the players.
When Montreal players began filing in at 9 in the morning, some were getting ready to travel. It was clear that many of them had no idea of what was happening. Others, on the other hand, had an inkling of what was to be.
Last night at about 6 o'clock, I had left practice early, and I got home and got a phone call from some of the guys, and I didn't really know what the deal was, and then they told me that the team was going to fold, and that's the first I heard of it.
Half an hour later, the picture was a lot clearer. Norm Kimball had told his players that it was all over.
It wasn't news breaking to us. I mean, you hear it on the radio, and before Norm Kimball gets a chance to even say anything to you, and all of a sudden you have a meeting here at the stadium, you know something's fixing to happen. And what are you going to do is a question that could come to a person's mind. Where are you going to go now? Big decisions you have to make. You have to consider your family, and all those types of things went through my mind.
Many of these players now face an uncertain future.
Michael, it's tough to say right now. This is probably the most difficult part of the season. All the teams have their rosters set. They have everybody on their injured or move list, and for someone to get a job, it will probably be a Canadian, just because they're easier to use than the Americans are.
Well, Joe Ferrighelli did say that there were two ways that Norm could have gone. Norm could have gone it into the season and run out of money there and then left us all high and dry, but instead he tried to take the money he had and take care of all of us right now and give us a chance at something else, which was great of him to do.
Minutes later, Norm Kimball, at an impromptu press gathering, explained his blockbuster decision.
I don't hold anything against Montreal at all. I think the time that I've been here, I think this is a great city, and I've really enjoyed the people. It's simply a choice. They've got choices to make, and obviously what we have available for them, they don't want.
The stadium roof was a feature that was supposed to save the Montreal Alouettes football under controlled conditions, but no CFL game will ever take place here.
It wouldn't surprise me if we finished first. In fact, I'd be disappointed. I said, because I could see the progress and I could feel the way the players were reacting. There was never once did they ever slacken off or do something that would hurt practice. I mean, I never saw guys work so hard, and I could see them coming, and I could feel it, and it was exciting. And I told them, I said, my statement to them was, you know, it's all over. The team folded, and the sorriest thing is that we'll never know how good we were, and that's it.
The events of the day unfolded in an almost dreamlike fashion. Last evening, this room was bustling with activity and anticipation. Hours later, it looked like an abandoned movie set. Michael Whalen, TSN in Montreal.
If there's a player that symbolizes the Montreal Alouettes, it might very well be Nick Araki, certainly a veteran in terms of service and quality of play. And earlier today, our John Wells got his feelings on the demise.
The Alouette players knew that this was going to be a make-or-break season for football in Montreal. Few knew the story better than veteran Nick Araki. He's been with the Als since 1979 and has watched the attendance dwindle to a mere few thousand in recent years. Nick is on the line with us live from Montreal now. Nick, how big a shock was today's announcement to you?
Well, it was a tremendous shock. Obviously, we had no inkling of what was going on until probably last night at around 6 or 7. We got a call to say that we have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock or today at the stadium. But I think some of the guys that have been around for a while had kind of put 2 and 2 together and figured out that this was something pretty big. We had a flight for 11 o'clock at Dorval for Toronto, so we knew something was up, and I think we were all prepared for the worst, and unfortunately the worst came about.
Tell us how your teammates reacted this morning in the locker room when the announcement was made officially.
Well, I think everybody felt the same way. We were pretty shocked. The timing of the whole thing. I suppose there's no really good time to do something like this. But having gone through training camp, having gone through the 2 preseason games, and then to have this, dropped on your lap was, to put it mildly, it was a shock. And the guys were. It was, you didn't know who to get mad at, and I think people were kind of, hoping that this wasn't true, and maybe this was another part of the Dallas show, and that somebody was going to come out of the shower room and tell us it was all a dream. But unfortunately, it didn't quite turn out that way. And today we've got 40 guys that are, they're going to have a couple of sleepless nights until they find out what's going on.
Is there one thing, Nick, that killed football in Montreal?
I don't think you can point at any one particular thing and say that was it. I don't think you can say the Scalabania year was the year that did it. I don't think you can just blame it on marketing or blame it on the fans, blame it on the city, blame it on the product. I think it's a combination of a lot of things, and I think it took a few years for all those things to develop, and the result of those things kind of just fermenting over the years kind of came to a head today. And people don't want to keep getting into a business and losing money. We've lost a lot of money in the last few years, and I think Mr. Kimball tried his best to get this thing off the ground, but people just weren't buying the product, and they made a choice, and as a result, we're out of business today.
Quickly, Nick, are you bitter about the way things turned out?
No, I'm not bitter. The only thing I feel right now is I kind of feel sorry for the guys that didn't get the chance to play. You know, I've been in this league for 8 years. This would have been my 9th. Hopefully I can play again, but I feel bad for some of the guys that haven't had the chance to play in this league. I've been very proud to be part of this league, and especially be part of the Montreal Football Club, and I'm very sad it ended this way, but I hope that we can get some good out of it.
Obviously, every team in the league is affected, but none of the remaining teams is affected more than the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They move from the west to the east, evening the divisions at 4 teams each. In the long term, Winnipeg's playoff situation will have been improved. The past decade, the west has been far tougher than the east. In the short term, the Bombers are in a tough spot. They open their season tomorrow in Toronto, taking the place of the Alouettes.
You know, I hate to see them go, get that right, but I also know that the money that's been poured in there from our football club alone into the gate equalization to them is needed a lot more where we are than giving it to somebody else. And I think somehow or other you've got to be able to carry your own freight, and I think right now, as you say, I think we're a lot healthier for it ourselves.
I think that the reaction was good. I think that they realize it's a difficult situation for the league right now, and that we were put in a spot where we had to play the early game, and they're going to do their best to win it.
We'll have more on the shocking story from Montreal a little later in the show. The demise of the Alouettes is not a story that can be taken lightly. We're not talking about a WFL or USFL team folding. We're talking about a team that has been part of the community for more than a century. And as the Alouettes leave us, we are left with some fond memories. Memories of superstars and sellout crowds, of better days gone by.
Football in Montreal dates back to 1865, when the first account of a game of rugby football played in Canada was reported between a team of officers from English garrisons stationed in Montreal and a team of civilians, mainly from McGill University. 3 years later, the Montreal Football Club was established. Teams from Montreal won the Grey Cup in 1931 and 1944, and a new team called the Alouettes defeated Calgary 28-15 to win the Cup in 1949. The Owls appeared in 3 consecutive Grey Cups in the 50s, losing all 3 to the Edmonton Eskimos. Nevertheless, the Montreal teams of the 50s were always entertaining, featuring such great players as Sam Echeverry, Hal Patterson, and Pat Abruzzi. The Alouettes struggled throughout the 60s, but the 70s were a different story. Montreal went to the Grey Cup no less than 6 times, and they came away winners on 3 of those occasions. During those years, names like Sonny Wade, Johnny Rogers, Don Sweet, Peter Dalla-Riva, and a host of others were the toast of the league. Crowds of 40,000 plus filling the brand new Olympic Stadium were commonplace. The Alouettes' downfall began about 1980. That's when entrepreneur Nelson Scalbania bought controlling interest in the club and started to spend big bucks on such high-priced Americans as Vince Ferragamo and James Scott. To put it bluntly, the idea was a bust. The Owls lost games, that led to lost fans, and that led to bankruptcy. Scalbania voluntarily bailed out in 1982 when Charles Bronfman and Imasco offered to pick up the tab. The new owner tried to change the Owls' image by changing the name to the Concords. By 1986, the Concords had become the Alouettes again, but the problems of the Scalbania era remained. Most prominent among these were poor attendance. Montreal averaged only 11,000 fans last year. The Alouettes were going broke, and they needed help fast. The Owls brought in Norm Kimball to inject new life into the franchise, but it was too little too late. Montreal needed to sell 28,000 season tickets to break even, but they had only sold 4,000 as of Wednesday. The writing was on the wall, and Kimball was left with no other choice but to dissolve the once proud franchise.
Like any business that goes under, the assets are assumed by other companies. In this case, the major assets are the players, and they will be liquidated in a dispersal draft on Friday. For some of the Alouettes, the collapse is a mere inconvenience. They'll simply wear a different uniform. For others, it is the end of their careers.
The first player to be picked could very well be defensive tackle Brett Williams. The Schenley finalist recorded 21 sacks last season and could make an immediate impact on any team's pass rush. Another Alouette pretty well guaranteed a job somewhere in the league, wide receiver James Hood. He was the Schenley runner-up as the league's most outstanding player last season, and he could even top last year's performance if he goes to a team with an experienced quarterback. Also in the receiving corps, the veteran tight end Nick Araki. His non-import status will make him appealing to other clubs, although very few teams in the league go with a tight end formation. Canadian offensive lineman Lloyd Fairbanks should also attract some attention. He spent 8 seasons in Calgary before his 4 in Montreal, and he could very well end up back in Alberta. Defensive back Steve Benjamin had an impressive rookie season with 77 tackles in 18 games, and what CFL team couldn't use a good defensive back? Or an experienced linebacker such as William Mitchell. Before his lone season with Montreal, Mitchell was a 3-time All-Star in his 3 years with the Toronto Argonauts. And finally, at quarterback, Walter Lewis was expected to get the nod as the Montreal starter in his 2nd season. And the Alouettes had also plucked Brad Taylor off the Edmonton bench to serve as Lewis's backup. Both could get a look in Toronto, where the Argos continue their quarterback search.
And of course, the reaction in all the cities is pertinent. Now, Scal, get some of the other reaction from around the CFL.
Certainly, you don't like to lose a member of your league, and you know, it's with regret that you know, Montreal has, you know, decided not to continue. But I think we got to look ahead and look at some of the positive things that come out of this. And with Winnipeg in the East, I think you know, will be a stronger Eastern Division, and down the road, if nothing happens where Montreal comes back in next year or whatever, I think, you know, it'll be easy scheduling-wise, and perhaps maybe start the season and maybe a month later or something, which has always been kind of a bugaboo, you know, with a lot of fans, that we start the season too early. So I think there's a lot of positive things that come out of this.
Certainly with a great deal of regret that the league accepted the situation, and a great deal of regret the Ottawa club has that Montreal will not be a member of the Canadian Football League. Certainly there have been excellent traditional rivalries between Montreal and Ottawa over the period of time, and while all the clubs were extremely worried about this situation, Ottawa, I think, more than any, because we have had the potential of this intercity rivalry.
I think the league has to work very hard upon regaining our credibility. I think we've got to spend a lot of time with the media, a lot of time with our fans, a lot of time telling our story, and I think we've got to demonstrate to the fans that we're doing new things that are going to make the league stronger, not weaker.